Hello Hello everyone. This week I wanted to give more of a visual update. Usually I show more the products, but this week I have more stuff to talk about and theory than physical stuff to show. So you might have noticed last week I didn't provide an update on Patreon, and the simple reason for that was that I didn't have anything much to show actually, and when I make an update for you guys, I want it to be meaningful and actually provide content, ideas, updates, hindsight. So this week I do have some stuff to show. So first of all, let's start with this. So when I started 2 years ago, I designed this flexible PCB for the Dactyl Maniform. And the thing is, when you look at the world of flexible PCBs, there's the Kinesis doing a flexible one with the Kinesis Advantage. Then there's a few of them floating around, like for the Line 40, for Type Theory keyboards. But if you look at open sourced ones, there wasn't really any presence online. And since I've been working in IT for a long time before going into this keyboard company, um, I've been always in touch with open source and a big supporter of open source, and that's also why I've been consistently open sourcing all my 3D models of keyboards online. The goal of this project is still to make ergonomics more accessible to people, whether it be through 3D models, tutorials, or PCBs. So as of last week, this PCB is also open source. That is including the KiCad files on the GitHub, which means you do need the nightly build. It doesn't work with the number 5 version. You need like the 5.99, but you can edit all those files yourself. And of course on the GitHub there's also the Gerbers if you want to order it from a factory. And I've had so far really good feedback from the community, and I am extremely excited to see what people are gonna do with it, because when I released those keyboard 3D models, instantly people started to mod them, modify them, make new versions, completely different ones, and I want to see what's gonna happen with those. Then, for a more personal project and also to have a little bit of fun, I made this keyboard, which you have probably seen on Reddit or Discord, so I will leave you to look at the pictures in more detail. And the point was to show a little bit what's possible with steel, with different colors, with different keycaps, and of course the goal was also to have a little bit of fun, but I also find it very interesting to see how we can still have some diversity in those keyboards, because in the end all of them still have the same 3D model, and at the moment I don't have a lot of time to do 3D modeling, so it's also nice to see what's possible with some constraints, which is the same 3D model, same firmware in the end, but having fun with colors, with materials, and different keycaps. So that was a very successful first build, and I am considering doing other ones. And speaking of 3D models, I've been working a little bit on them. On my keyboards, there's those adapters made for the trackball, which also hold the sensor PCB. And the issue was that I had multiple versions of them for the Nano version and for the 6x4 version. And now I've worked a bit on them, and I've came to only one version which is compatible with both models. Maybe I've talked about that previously already. Yes, then I want to talk a bit about future projects, because one of the reasons, well, the main reason I don't have a lot of updates to share at the moment is that I'm looking for a new place in Dordrecht, where I work, close to Rotterdam in the Netherlands, So for a new place to work, because this atelier that you're seeing here is probably gonna close end of December. So I need to find a new place, and with that comes a lot of other questions, because lately I've been getting more and more orders, which is nice, but it also means that there's a pretty long waiting list at the moment, and I really don't like that. I want my things to be accessible to as many people as possible, which is why I open source it, but I also want to be able to ship it to people who cannot order the PCB from the factory, people who don't have a 3D printer, and for me the more people I reach, the better. And on the side of that, I also have some nice ideas for projects, which I will talk about right after that. But the issue is that because I'm spending so much time packaging and so much time looking for a new place, I don't have the time for those projects, and I'm kind of missing that, because the first few years I was working on this keyboard project, I was of course grinding and working a lot and trying to make myself known and build a good reputation online. But I was also spending a lot of time designing and inventing, and that's how the skeletal happened, and that's how the Charybdis happened, just by playing with different ideas, different projects. And the goal is, on top of helping people, also innovate and bring the whole keyboard scene forward and make it advance. And I haven't had a lot of time lately for this, so I will keep on focusing on looking for a new place to rent, and that will take me probably until I think November, maybe even December. But once I get into a new place, the plan is to get a little bit of a bigger space. At the moment I have 20 square meters. I'm thinking maybe 40 square meters, double it. And then I would really like to take on an employee. So I think probably 2 half days a week, 2 afternoons, maybe 1 day. And this will be to get help with basically the boring stuff, which is soldering, printer maintenance and printing, packaging. And that way I will have more time for projects. And speaking of projects, I do have a few ideas which I've taken notes, so I'm gonna they're also floating around on the Discord, but I'm gonna give you a resume here. Too long didn't read. And current projects, there's a lot of them, but they include, amongst other things, switching to an STM32 architecture, so going from the Elite C, which I have here, which is what goes in all my keyboards, to something like the STM32 Blackpill. And this means more power and mostly more memory, which means I could have the trackball and a visual layout configurator. So at the moment I'm using VIAL, which is kind of like VIA but open source. And the issue is that I cannot use the trackball and VIA at the same time, because there's just not enough space on the Elite C. And since I'm also gonna add another project is adding Perky RGB to the Charybdis Nano, and I've ordered a thumb cluster for the Nano with Perky RGB. And it does work, but the issue is that you have to make concessions. If you want a trackball, you cannot have VIA, and eventually it also means I cannot have what's called XAP, XAP, and it's the in-house solution from QMK to have a visual configuration, so an alternative to VIA and VIAL, but directly embedded into QMK. So that's what I want to go towards eventually, but I cannot do that unless I switch to a new microcontroller. So I've ordered some Blackpills, and once I receive them I will hand wire one to a Charybdis and test it, probably with the help of Drashna, who has been extremely helpful so far. And once that's done, I will start working on new shield adapters. So it's gonna take a lot of time, but I'm pretty optimistic. On my wish list, on top of that, is also Bluetooth. And I've heard that Fopark in QMK is working really hard on porting from what I understood from it. I'm not super technical about this, but there's this middle layer between QMK and the hardware, which is called an HAL, I think. Don't quote me on that. And the one that's used by QMK is not compatible with Bluetooth Low Energy chips. License-wise, not compatible. And that's why you have alternatives like ZMK. But I want to stick with QMK because of VIA, because of XIP, because I don't like the way ZMK works as well with compiling and flashing. And so Fopark is apparently working on a new middle layer which is compatible with the licenses of the Bluetooth Low Energy chips from Nordic. And that means that we may get Bluetooth chips running QMK next year. And that will honestly be my end game, which is a combination of all of this, a Charybdis Nano with a visual configurator, Perky RGB, and Bluetooth. And that will be amazing. It's a nice goal to strive towards, and I'm also really excited about it because when I worked on the Charybdis Nano, it was there have been a lot of trackball keyboards previously, but this one was the first one with proper kind of reusable firmware behind it. Of course, building from the work of the Tractile Manuform and the Oddball, but I tried to make it a good example that can be reused. And same thing with the hardware, is the PCBs are open source and can be reused. The whole trackball assembly can be reused, and I'm trying to build things properly and make it so that they can be looked at as an example, basically, and show people, hey, see, it's not that hard. It's doable to create something yourself. And it's I feel that at the moment the world of Bluetooth dactyls is kind of in the same situation as the world of trackball dactyls 6 months ago is. It does exist, but it's a bit janky, and there's people right and left doing it. But I would like to provide something more approachable, something more reusable. Okay, so that's basically all the news for this time. I did forget. Let me connect the keyboard again. I did forget to say thank you so much to the new 2 patrons who joined us, and I do not know your names, guys. I'm gonna check it. Carl and Eric, thank you so much for joining. Please don't hesitate if you have any questions on what I'm doing, on what's happening around. I'll be glad to answer them. And again, guys, thank you so much for following me, and I hope you have an amazing week. Bye.